Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, we are going to be building a bot which will remove the background behind any image. So let's say, for example, like we have this image here and you can see there's a background behind Terry Crews. What the bot is going to do is it's going to remove the background so it looks nice and elegant, just like a lot of YouTubers do on their thumbnails, or if you just want to make graphics look more professional by removing the background. So I'm just going to close these images. So I can show you we're going to have a before folder with a whole bunch of images which have people and backgrounds. But note, it doesn't just have to be people, it could also be products, literally be anything which has a foreground and a background and you want to remove the background. So this is what the after is going to look like. You can see these images have no background. So the way we're going to do this is we are going to use a software, remove.bg. All right, and basically how this works is you simply upload an image, all right, just like say this picture of Donald Trump, and it'll then remove the background using artificial intelligence. It's super powerful. From there you can click this download button and it'll then download the image with the removed background. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a bot which is going to loop through each photo in this folder, in the before folder, and it'll then save the removed background image in the after folder. All right, so let's get straight into it. So I'm just going to copy this before folder. Right, so we can start off by opening UiPath Studio. And I'm going to call this image background removal. Right, and description, I can say removes background from images. Create. So we can click open main workflow, come here to our project tab, right click and say open file location on our main XAML file, and it'll then open the folder where we have this project, our image background removal project. And I'm going to paste in our before folder with these 5 images of these celebrities. I'm then going to create a new folder and call it after, and this is where the edited or removed background images are going to be saved. So we have all these files in the before folder. We want to loop through all of them. So I'm going to first use an assign, and I'm going to create a new variable, right click, create variable, and I'm going to call this file list. So it's a list of files, and make sure that that variable type is set to an array of objects. All right, so an object is basically a file, and an array is basically like a list with a set number of items, and in this case it's a array of images. So there we have file list, right? And then over here we want to write directory dot get files. All right, so we use the get files method, and then we can see there it tells us it requires a path as a string and then a search pattern. All right, so I'm going to come here, and inside the brackets we're going to have 2 expressions separated by a comma. Let me just zoom in so it's easier for you to see here, or actually let me open the expression editor. So on the left hand side of the comma we are going to have the file path as a string. So I'm going to come here, and we want the file path to this before folder. So I'm going to come to home, copy path. Now it's copied to clipboard. I'll come back here and I'll Control V to paste that in. And you'll see it even adds the strings for the before folder just as we wanted. All right. And then we can see after the comma, we can add our search pattern, for example, asterisk dot JPG. So what's happening here is on the left hand side is the path to the folder, and on the right hand side is a search pattern in the name of the file. So in our case, we want the name to be anything, which is this wildcard asterisk, but we want the file extension to only be JPEG files. If you want it to be JPEG, PNG, or anything, you can simply just keep it as an asterisk like that, and that'll read any file. However, if the file is not an image, it might run into an error. So it's always good just to put the file extension over there. So we can check here in our folder, we can see all the extensions end with .jpg, just like that. Cool, so that is good enough. I'm going to click OK, and now we can continue. So next step, we want to loop through each file in this file list. So we can use a for each activity, right? Not a for each row. For each row is when you loop through each row in a data table. For each is when you want to loop through anything else, like a list of files or an array or a list or anything. So I'm going to drag that in. So I'm going to say for each, and then instead of item, I'm going to say file in file list. You can call this anything on the left hand side. It's just good for reference. So like if you're looping through files, it's good to say for each file in file list. If you're looping through rows, it's good to say for each row in rows list, for example. So there we have our for each. Make sure your type argument is an object, because that's what a file is. And then I'm just going to use a log message. All right, drag that into the body, and I'm going to log an information message to the output panel, and that is going to be the file name .toString. So if you say file.toString, it'll actually put the name of the file in the output panel, and that's actually the entire path. So let's try run this, and we can then look at our output panel and see what happens. So I'm going to click run file. All right, and output, there we have it. So we have the full path for all of our 5 images that we have in that folder. Great, that's good news. So now next steps is we want to basically search or upload this image into the remove.bg project. So I'm going to come to activities, and then I'm going to go to open browser. So now we want to open our website, which is remove.bg. Right, I'm just going to copy this URL, and I'm going to paste that there. Oh, let's not forget our string, just like that. Let's configure it to open in Google Chrome, and we want to open in a new session, and then also set private to true. And that's because this app, remove.bg, uses cookies. If we use an incognito window, the cookies aren't going to interfere and mess up our selectors and all that. So I have set this to true, so it'll open in an incognito window. What I'm also going to do is I am going to use a maximize window activity and drag that into the do sequence here, which will maximize the browser to fit the entire size of your screen. Cool. So I'm just going to close this, or let me close the tab here rather, and I'm going to run this, and let's see if it opens up Google Chrome in a maximized window. There you go. So it opens Google Chrome to remove.bg, and it's also in an incognito window because we set it to private. Great. So that has now worked. Next steps is now we want to click on this upload image button, all right, which will bring us this window where we can select our folder. So I'm just going to come back, and I'm going to go to UiPath, and inside our for each, I'm going to use a click activity, and I'm going to drag that into the body of the for each activity, and indicate on screen I'm going to click on this upload image button. All right, remember you need to have your UiPath Chrome extension installed in order for this to work. All right, or else it's just going to recognize your entire screen as the UI element as opposed to the individual elements like the buttons. So I'm going to rename this click button to click upload image, and I'm going to come to these to the selector, click the menu icon and then edit selector, And then looking at this, we want to make this as robust as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the title of the browser over here to put a wildcard before the name remove.bg and after, just like that. So that means it'll work on any page. And also all these spaces here, I'm just going to replace with a wildcard. I'll keep the text upload image, and I'll also delete this white space and put a wildcard over there. So let's validate that, highlight to make sure it's working. You can see it's highlighting it in red, so it's working, and we can click OK. Great. We can also set simulate click so that it clicks it in the background. That's always best practice. And yeah, let's now try test this and see if it's working. I'm going to close our browser over here, and also it might be good to set our wait for ready to complete, which means the browser needs to be fully loaded before it attempts to click this upload image button. So let's go run file. So that opens up Google Chrome. It's waiting for it to load. There you go. It clicked the upload image button. Let's go see if it opened our window. Doesn't look like it. Maybe it's because it minimized. That might have been the problem. Let me just see. So if I click this button, this window should pop up. But let's see if I click that button and I try to minimize. Okay, it's all right. Maybe the issue is in the simulate click. Let's go to set it to send window messages, and let's try this again. So I'll close that and run this file. There you go. So that worked better. Right, so the issue was with the simulate click for clicking the upload image. Right, so now that we have this window open, we want to attach to it. So we can use an attach window activity. Attach window, and we want to indicate this window just like that. And let's have a look at our selector. So that looks fine. The class, this is always going to be the class for the save as window pop-up. Validate and highlight. Cool, that is working fine. We can click OK. Next step, we want to now search for the file name inside this field over here. Right, so you don't want to ever search for a file path and name at the top here or along these panels on the left. It makes it really difficult to actually do it. This is actually the easiest way to do it. So to do that, we can use a type into activity. All right, drag that in and indicate elements inside window. And then we want to type into this field. All right, so make sure you're not clicking on the outer frame over there, and you're actually on the inner one over there. That's where you're actually typing into. So we want to click there. All right, and set simulate type to true. All right, remember, it's always good to set simulate type to true, and only if that fails do you change to set window messages. If send window messages also fails, then you keep both to false and you leave it to the default method to type into. Next, we can enter our file path over here. So control space, file.toString. So what that's going to enter is what we were seeing here, this entire path. D drive, robots, image background, removal, before, and then the name of the file. So it's basically the entire path to the file. And then that's what will be typed into this file name over here. So let's test this out. I'm going to click cancel. Just close all of this. What's going on? Cancel. It looks like a bug or something. Let me just right click, close window. That is very strange. Why is this happening? There you go. Cool. So let's try again. Let me just click this run button. Opens remove.bg. Click the upload image button, and there we have it. So we can see it's busy typing in all the file paths one after another. That's because we haven't set the end of the loop yet, but that's fine. So basically it was able to type the path into here as we wanted it. Next, we want to click on this open button to actually upload it. So let me show you. If I click open, it will, geez, got that problem again because it looped through all of them, all 5 images, but it's fine. Anyway, we wanted to then click the open button. So let's use a click activity, drag that in, and click on the open button. Make sure simulate click is set to true. I'm going to rename this to click open. Let's also rename this type into to type full file path. And let's check the selector of our click open. So that seems to be fine. Validate, highlight. That seems to be good. If we run into any issues, we can come and tweak this, but it seems to be fine. And click OK. Great. So let me try now. Close this again, run this, and let's see if it is able to click the open button after it types in the file path of the first image. So there it opens remove.bg, types in the file path, clicked open. So now it's just repeating, as we can see. So that's fine. So to prevent this from happening while debugging, what we can do, let me just stop this. Okay, just stop there. What we can do is we can just add a break activity inside our for each. So inside the body of our for each, you want to scroll right to the bottom and go to activities, search for break, and drag in this break activity just above the blue line there, so that it won't keep repeating for all images. So this is just during debugging. Once we've built the entire bot, we want to remove this break activity. Cool. So that's good. Let's just see what's going on. Okay, I'm just going to close that. Great. So now we have managed to upload. I'm just going to run it again, just so that we can get to the point where we can access our selector of the download button. So let's just wait for this. It's going to upload first image. Okay, there you go. Bot ended, and that's because it breaks out of the loop. So here we are at the first image, and now here is the button we want to click to download this. So I'm going to come to UiPath, and right after our attach window, I'm going to call this attach to save window. Just going to collapse this, and then after that I'm going to drag in a click activity, drag that just below the attach to save window, and we want to click on this download button. So I'll select the download, click download. All right, let's have a look at our selector. All right, our name download. Let's again do this thing where we put the wildcard before and after remove.bg in the title. It's always good practice to do that. Right, parent ID, page content. This looks fine. Validate, highlight. Right, this looks like a reliable selector, so we'll click OK. We also want to check true for simulate click. Right, and also for wait for ready, we want to make sure that the browser is completely loaded before it tries to download this image. All right, because we're currently not inside of our open browser, so we kind of have to make sure that the browser is loaded before it tries to click the button. What we can then do is it should then save the file to our downloads folder. So if I come to downloads, all right, I'm just going to delete this image that's from before, and that is fine. So currently we don't have any images in the downloads. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this bot, and let's see what happens. Oh, so it looks like there was a problem there because of the cookies in the browser. All right, so anyway, it still did download. We can have a look here. There's our image of Mark Zuckerberg with our removed background. So what we would do manually, we would usually copy this, then we would go to our folder, to our after folder, and then we'd come and we'd paste that in over there. All right, and then there would be our image. But we want the bot to move that. So what we want to do is we want to use the move file activity to move the downloaded file from the downloads folder into our after folder. So I can search here for move file. All right, drag that in just below. And we want to move from the downloads folder to our after folder. So our after folder is simply, we can select the after folder and click OK. Right, so that's my D drive, robots, image background removal after. Right, but the from folder requires a file path. The to folder requires a folder path. So you can see this ends in the folder path. This one requires a file path. All right, so this is going to have to be a dynamic file name because the name changes for each image. All right, so this gets a little bit tricky. So basically what we need to do is we need to basically create a custom from file path. So what we currently have is this the file path in the before folder. However, we need to access it from the downloads folder. So the downloads folder on my PC would be, if I come to downloads or downloads, let me just click this image and click copy path. Right, come here and let me open up this, paste that in there. All right, so C drive uses my username on my PC, downloads, and then the name of the file. But I'm going to delete this name of the file. But also, just one thing I want you to notice is we can see this was the original name of the file, all right, all this mumbo jumbo. But then it also added this -remove.bg -preview.png. So we need to account for that because now the name of the file has actually changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all of this for now. Actually, before I delete it, just want to copy this. I'm going to Control C to copy this expression because we're going to be using this to basically create the new file name. So I'm just going to maybe save that into a notepad file just for now, just to keep it there. Cool. And let's just delete this file name. So we are going to have this. It'll be our downloads folder, and then we need the name of the file. So I'm going to create a variable, Control K, and let's call it downloaded file name. Enter. Cool. So I'll click OK. But it's currently downloaded file name doesn't have any value. I'm also just going to set the scope to the sequence. All right, and sequence in this case is our main sequence over here. So I'm just going to call this main. So we can see here now that our variable is set to the main scope. So I'm going to use an assign activity over here, and I'm going to create the downloaded file name. And how I'm going to create that is I'm going to grab it from our full path, because here is the full path. If I double click that and I copy all of this, all right, let's open Notepad over here. Just going to paste that there. So just note that when you open it here, it adds these double backslashes, which aren't actually supposed to be there. So just be aware of that. So I'm just going to delete those just like that. Cool. And so we can see we want to basically grab this name over here, and we want to manipulate it to add this expression in place of the .jpg. So what we need to do first is we first need to grab the name, and we can do that using a split. And we can split by the backslash character. All right, so we can see there's a few backslashes, and then we'll just grab the last item in that array, which would be this file name. All right, and then from there we can replace the JPEG with this expression. So let me show you how to do that. We'll cancel here. So we're going to need to use a bit of .NET. If you're not sure how to do that, do this, and you you want more details on this, you can check out my Udemy course. I cover it in detail over there. So for the value, we're going to have our file.toString, right? So that's the file name. That's basically what we saw over here. And we are going to split by a backslash, which is that over there. So I'm going to say dot split, open bracket, close bracket. Inside quotation marks, we put our backslash. Or is it a forward slash or a backslash? It is a backslash, just like that. Put a C over there for the character, right? And then we can say dot last. So that's going to grab the last item in the array. From there, we can use a toString, right? And then we can say dot replace. And inside the brackets, we are going to replace .jpg with this entire expression over here. And notice how it actually converts it to a PNG when it's downloaded. So double quotes, there you go. So that is now going to convert this expression into this expression. Just like that. So that's what we just did. We split this with the backslashes to grab just the file name, which was this. Then we used the replace method to replace .jpg with this expression, and that is how we are left with that. Great, so we can click OK. Now we have our downloaded file name. All right, so that should now then move the file from our downloads folder to our after folder. But one thing that we need to just be sure of is that it should only try and move the file once the folder or once the file has been downloaded. Maybe it might be taking long to download after this button's clicked, and then it attempts immediately to try and move the file, and then it'll run into an error. So what we want to do is we want to actually create a dynamic loop which will basically only attempt to move the file once it knows it has downloaded. All right, so how do we do that? So what we can do is we can use a path exists activity. So here we have a path exists, all right, and the path we want to check for is this exact path over here. So I'm going to copy paste this into there. So we are looking for this file, and note we have this set to file. So we are checking if this folder is in this file is in our downloads folder. So if it is, then it's going to output a Boolean true or false. So I'm going to create a variable, Control K, and I'm going to call this path exists. And this is going to return a true or false. All right, so what we can do is we can use a while loop. All right, I'm going to drag a while loop just like this, and I'm going to create a variable. Let me assign a variable called Control K to create a variable. I'm going to call this file not downloaded and set that to true. So note a while loop runs while a condition is true. All right, so in the condition, I'm going to put our file not downloaded, wrong variable, file not downloaded, right? And it's going to basically run while this file not downloaded is equal to true. Then I'm going to drag in our path exists into the body of our while loop, right? And I'm then going to use an if activity, drag the if below the path exists, and I'm going to check our path exists. It's true. We then want to use an assign and change our file not downloaded variable, file not downloaded, to false. Just like that. So notice how we're getting an error over here. Let's just go see what's going on. File not downloaded, we can see it's a string. We want that to be a Boolean. So I'll change it to Boolean, and there you go, the error is gone. So if I just zoom out a bit, What this is going to do, before it enters the while loop, it's going to assign a variable file not downloaded to true. So while it's true means the file is not downloaded, it's going to keep running this loop. And what this loop is doing is it's continually checking if the file has been downloaded, if it exists. If it does exist, meaning path exist is equal to true, then file not downloaded is equal to false, meaning the file has downloaded. And then from there, it will then exit the loop because now the condition is false, and it'll then continue to this move file activity, and it'll then move the file. All right, so this is a really useful way to basically check if a file's downloaded before it tries to do anything with it. All right, you'll find a lot of use cases where you'll need to do something like that. Great, so let me just zoom back in so it's easier to see. So that is good. So let's have a look. So I'm going to try and run this and see if this is even working. I'm going to close this notepad. Don't need that anymore. I'm going to close the browsers and let's try and run this. So it opens the browser. It's going to click the upload image. It's going to enter a file path. Now it's going to click the download button. As you can see, they click download. And now the question is, has that file been moved to the after folder, or is it still stuck in a loop? Let's see what's going on here. It's basically saying that the file we are trying to move into the after folder already exists there. All right, so that if it exists, what we can do is we can actually set it to just overwrite that folder. So let me just show you, if we come to our after folder, that this file already exists with that exact name. So that's why it was running into that error. So I'm just going to delete that here. In fact, I didn't even have to delete it because now I set this to overwrite. So now that we are overwriting the file names, if it has the exact same name, that error won't occur again. Right, what we can also do is, if there is any other error, we can always set the continue on error to true, just so it doesn't break the loop or the bot. All right, so let me try and run this again, and I have a feeling this time we won't have a problem. Oh, let me just close that. So it opens the browser, uploads the image, downloads it. Cool. So it ended there, moving file, and let's just go to our after folder. There it is. Great. So that actually worked perfectly. So just one thing you would have noticed is now you can see it actually it keeps the previous image and it adds this new block for the new image you upload. So what I want to do is I'm just going to click this delete button, or tell the bot to click this delete button so that it doesn't get confused with the select of the download button. Or else it's always going to download the first image uploaded. So I'm going to use a click activity to close or to delete the image. So I'm going to come here to click. So after the file's been moved, we can click on this X. So let's have a look at our selector. Right, that seems to be fine. Let's just repeat the process of putting our wildcards there. Validate, highlight, cool. So I'm going to click OK. Make sure our simulate click is set to true. And I'm going to say click delete upload. Great. So what that will do is it'll delete this upload just before it repeats a process to upload the image again and type in the new file path. So that should now work. Now we can actually remove this break activity, and it will then now it should actually loop for all the images and move them into this folder. Right, I'm just going to delete this. I'm also going to come to my downloads folder and delete these images while we were busy developing, and I'm going to run. So let's see if this now loops through all images in the folder. So there you go, uploads the first one, downloads it, downloads the second one, Elon Musk, download Elon Musk, Terry Crews, Donald Trump. Right, so let's see if this worked. So I'm going to come here. So no images in our downloads, which is good, which means they've all been moved to our after folder. And there we have it. There's all of our images with the removed backgrounds. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Angelina Jolie, Terry Crews, and Donald Trump. Great, so I'm going to come back here, and I also just want to point out that it didn't close the browsers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in an activity after our entire for each, right at the end, because just before the for each we open the browser, so right at the end after the for each we want to close the browser. So I'll use a close application, and I'll indicate this browser and set the selector to be just the name of the app with the wildcards, as we've been doing before. Validate. Okay, cool. So that should now do it. That should now close the application. I'm going to rename this to close browser, just like that. If you would like to download this bot that we built in this video, you can check out the description of this video, and there'll be a link there where you can download a robot pack, and you can download this this bot, as well as all the other bots we build on my YouTube channel. And if you want to learn more about UiPath, I have a Udemy course. If you want to check that out, I will link to that in the description as well. All right, so I hope this was helpful to you, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Cheers.